All righty. So, yeah, we missed each other on Tuesday. I was back at that convention in Boston. Saw a lot of Boston things there. I was still on Alaska time, so yeah, I ended up in an Irish pub that had a lot of Boston Bruins stuff in there. Good time. Also went to a football game down in Auburn. That was a good time as well. So anyway, but this is about where we left off. We were talking about mobile homes, and then subsequently too, when I was back there, I recorded a thing to sort of prepare you for the test coming up. Right? Everybody kind of up to speed on that. That'll be next week, next Tuesday, and so if you haven't looked at those, the material that's out there, I kind of try to run through the test. And yes, questions.
When I was listening to the recording last night, and one gray area I had was, is it in class or is it on Blackboard?
Yeah, I teach this thing in distance as well. What I'll do here in class is I'll be kind of transparent to you. If you have a laptop, you can bring it in and you can take the Blackboard version of it. But the same test will be, it's the same test. It just depends on the format that you prefer. Okay. I have to have backups anyway because a lot of times, different rooms, this one especially, Blackboard will drop out, and so. Yeah.
So we can take it on Blackboard even before class?
No, cannot do that. You have to take it in class. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just to make things even. For example, the distance class they'll have to take their final exam proctored, and so I try and keep things as even as possible. It's kind of a foul to do two proctor tests with the distance guys because some of those folks are not even here. I mean, I've had students in China and other places, so but yeah, to even things up, So you will take it in class for you folks, and the distance folks they'll be taking it. Obviously, that's all their only choice they have is Blackboard. So got one of my reindeer back last night. I'm pretty happy about that, and I found the other one. So. I don't know, I think I was discussing that last week. Trying to get them on the trailer. Got the female on there, but not the second. So. Always something. So, we talked about mobile homes, and I think, the information I imparted on you is that hopefully, you've made good choices in your life. And I don't mean to speak down to people who live in mobile homes, but it's not part of a good financial strategy in most cases. The reason why you want a home is because it's going to appreciate, and you don't want to be in a renting situation. I've got a video I may show you later on, depending on how this class goes, but I'll certainly show it to the distance folks. And this guy goes through this elaborate exercise about comparing renting versus buying and everything else, and he gets it down to, whatever couple decimal places there with currency. But the one thing that totally escapes them is that if you get a mortgage, let's say your mortgage is $2,100 a month, and it's going to be like that for 30 years, it's going to be like that for 30 years. Rent is not. So your mortgage, whereas renting is going to go with inflation. So anyway, again, from a financial standpoint, and there's other things to it. Mobility, you're going to lose some mobility by owning a home and some other things like that, but all things considered, from a financial standpoint, owning a home is a pretty smart move. Now, building a home, most of you wouldn't consider that on your initial purchase. But sometimes people think, okay, first I want to build this custom home. And number one, I think I mentioned last week how some of the strangest homes you'll ever see are custom homes. Because there's just not that many plans done, and sometimes things look good on paper and they turn out horribly wrong. But the other thing, from a financial standpoint, buying a home or building a home is usually a lot more expensive, because what happens is, at least initially, banks, they like collateral. They like something they can sell, right? And a half-finished home is not good. A home that never quite got finished doesn't really represent much in the way of collateral to those folks. So if you try, you're going to build your own home, right? And you're going to live in it and say it's going to take 7-8 months or whatever it is to get it constructed. Well, number one, you want to make sure that 7-8 months is going to be held to, or perhaps it can be greatly shortened. Because once you have to start purchasing stuff, like the land, you're going to purchase that outright, raw land, you're not going to get a good rate on it. I was paying about 7% on a raw land kind of loan, and that was good. Might be 8-9, because again, it's not as it doesn't fall within the scheme of sort of the privileged rates you get for home mortgages. And then once you start doing construction, you're going to get what they call a construction loan. And again, now we're talking the 8-9%. So that period until this home is livable, you're going to have a construction loan out there, and so that's going to be your problem. And oh, by the way, since it's not really a home yet, you're probably still paying rent someplace else. You're paying quite a bit of money for something you can't live in. So you still either weren't able to sell your previous home, or you weren't able to move out of the rental property. So, and then you got the whole flakiness sometimes with contractors, and sometimes it's not flakiness. Sometimes it's just weather and things like that have, this last summer you can see everybody still doing road construction because obviously the weather wasn't quite as favorable as what they thought. So, if you got a loan out and your home's still not done, those expenses, ring up. So, anyway, they bring up a few points, about the contractor and the rest of this, but I don't think they grasp the whole significance. And if it's your custom home and this is your life stream, that's great. But I would not do it to think that you're gonna it's going to be a cheaper solution, because typically it's not. Building a home. So, yeah.
What about like renovating houses?
Renovating a house in terms of like flipping it, things like that?
Yeah, my dad retired from the fire department in 2003. He's been flipping houses since then, on and off. He said to me that if he had been flipping houses since he was my age, he wouldn't have had to work after.
Yeah. And I've had students. I have a student maybe a couple terms ago, and he was, not too awful old, but he was a contractor, so he had the skills, had the tools, and he was flipping houses, and I think he was kind of building his inventory. So something like that, yeah. But again, the do it based upon your own research, not based upon some sort of, because there's all these scams or TV shows out there about flipping homes and how you can make great money and stuff. And number one, check the dates, because those things were very popular before 2007, 2008, because everybody just took it for granted that real estate is going to keep going up and up and up, and that didn't quite happen. But yeah, if you're good at it and you walk into the right kind of thing, you can do quite well. And real estate, again, if you're going to be, looking at see, there's a difference between investments and speculation. And flipping houses on kind of buying something for cheap and fixing it up and move, sometimes that gets into the speculation. And again, I've got nothing wrong with speculation, but that's not like retirement type investments. It can be if you buy good quality properties, but it's an open market out there. If something is cheap, it's because things are worth what you pay for them generally in a free and open market. So if it's very inexpensive, why is nobody else jumping on it?
I think with his experience and like me watching him was you needed like room financially. Like you can't obviously go and buy a used house without having some sort of financial playroom. But what took him the furthest was just taking the trash out of these houses. It's like people
yeah.
He didn't have generations of junk in it, and he moved 13,000 pounds of trash out, redo the floor, and then be able to sell it for twice what he paid for it.
Yeah, and there's especially you mentioned as a fireman, and that's the sort of thing where you end up with with some time, on your hands. Perhaps somebody works up on the slope, who's back at discourage you from it. I would, in the rank order of kind of speculative investments, penny stocks being rock bottom, flipping houses is good, but it's not without risk. And if you know what you're doing and you've got the skills and you can walk in and go, this is a quick fix, I can size this up, and this is the reason why this thing is a dog is it's not selling is because it's clutter, and there are simple things like that to go in there and do it. There's other ones that are kind of but you have to be skillful.
Oh yeah, no, my dad has obviously lots of background in construction and he's got
right.
an eye for it and he's very talented like that, but it actually has gotten pretty annoying. It's like now he's just always is looking for one. Looking for something to make some money on and be like, oh, look at that one.
Yeah.
Buy that one, we can take off, we can make money on that.
What I would do too, if I was thinking along those lines, I would become friends with. There's one guy I know in town, and there's more, I'm sure, but home inspectors. There's different levels of home inspectors. There's some guys who come in and check the outlets and look at the plumbing and maybe the windows, but they're just kind of cosmetic kind of folks. And then there's engineers, and let's say a home inspection might go for $300. Well, these guys, it might be $600. But this is the kind of guy who can come in there and look at the structure, look at the land, are things giving way, or is the plumbing sound, and more than just and somebody who comes in there and who's kind of, you're paying a fee for service, he's got no dog in the fight, he would probably go, this is a steal, or this isn't it, because he knows also. So that, like I say, I've had a few opportunities to purchase some real estate, and one, for example, I didn't think it was a great deal, but it was just too good a deal to pass up. I needed to investigate it, and sure enough, a little due diligence, a little inspection with this guy, he confirmed everything I thought. The thing's sinking into the mud, and it's a there's no, this one is not one. But yeah, I would jump on it if you got that kind of time. But yeah, if there's other people who are obsessed with coupons too and stuff like that, and that's good too. You can make a few bucks here and there, but if you're flipping houses and making big money, that's much better than obsessing about baseball scores and stuff like that. You know what I mean? If you're gonna waste your time doing something, doing that might be better. So anyway, yeah, if you're gonna do a contractor thing, do put in your time and look. Alaska is actually pretty good in that regard. You don't have these contractors going from state to state. Alaska is fairly isolated, and there's not as many scams because whatever. I'm sure there are some folks out there, but I don't hear those kind of war stories about the contractors up here. But do your research.
There was a law just passed recently. Don't have all the details, but there was a law passed recently where contractors had to have a handyman. They can't just call themselves handyman. They get a handyman. They have to have some sort of
Licensing.
Yeah, some sort of licensing to actually
come
in and do a job.
Yeah. Now, in the handyman thing, building contractors, I think they are pretty tight in the state in terms of, you have to be a licensed contractor to be building a home. On the handyman scheme, you see those guys going up and down the Glen with, just a pickup with a thing that's like, oof, who knows. And that's why you have these things like Angie's List and stuff like that, which are a scam almost in themselves because now people have to pay a fee. I think you have to subscribe to that, and I'm not really, the whole crowdsourcing of opinions.
Yeah, that's the guy with his user pickup with that 20-foot ladder on top.
Exactly. You see those people out there, but anything else like that, do some research. But it would not be a stretch to think that those guys, that there has to be some sense of control because it seems like kind of a free for all by just this guy can't even take care of his truck and he wants to jump in and work on a house. I'm not here to whatever. Sometimes those people are scouting for crime scenes. Maybe I watch too much TV, but anyway, that was at the end of Breaking Bad. That's what they were doing. The pest control company was sizing up houses for future robbery. Yeah. Well, they turned it a meth lab. He made him get out of the burglary business and stuck with meth from there on out. But yeah, shady characters are out there, definitely. Evaluate the property. So again, I've got a real estate license, but do I even dare say like those people? I mean, there's and if you came to me and asked me for a recommendation, it'd probably be unethical for me to give out recommendations. But if I were, there's probably only like 1/3 of them or one whatever that I would recommend. And the truth is that it's just a small fraction that does the volume. But the good ones are very good. And they know what sells. They would go, you don't want this, because they know they've tried to sell homes like that. And again, you buy things to sell them. So, and then like I say, on with the internet and everything else, and you're looking at these quantitative type things like square footage and acreage and all this guys are out there, and I would go ahead and do that rather than $200 extra goes, that's money well spent when it comes to dealing with a house that's got some sort of structural problems or some sort of rot or something. I mean, obviously you don't have termites up here, but there's other things that can go wrong. Well, septic, that stuff can get expensive if you're not on the city water. And then the mortgage company will want an appraisal. Yes, obviously anybody who's going to make a loan on that property is going to want it appraised. But again, it's not a lot of drama. Oh, did it? When you're selling a home, did it get appraised for what? Yeah, it pretty much always will. So it's not like a great check. You have to do some research. They will provide an appraiser's report that has comps in it, comparable, things, and so you can look and say, is this reasonable or is this guy gaming it? But I just know that a lot of times appraisers will complain, had a tough time getting that thing to appraise. I had to, find some comps, and well, it shouldn't be that hard. It should be a fairly straightforward process. You find properties that are like that are in the area and what they go for. And if an appraiser has to work at it to get the appraisal to come out right, then, that's not a comfortable feeling. And in the old days, in 5-10 years ago, well, it all goes up, it's all going to appreciate anyway. Well, now, and especially now, as in if the market starts to slump a little bit with the economy, perhaps, old comps are not going to be as valuable. You want to know what things are going for right now. Determine the home price. So, whether it's a seller or buyer's market, and negotiating purchase price. Don't be afraid to get in there. Again, this is where a salesperson can help you out a great deal. If you come in with an offer that's kind of insulting, you may aggravate the seller, and they just may whatever. But if look at it, and again, for sale by owner ones are the ones that are usually just have kind of out to lunch prices. They can be quite low, but typically they're quite high. Typically, the reason they're doing the for sale by owner is because they brought in an agent, and that person's going, there's no way you're going to get this money, and there's, after they're having to pay the commission to the salesperson, they don't want any part of it, so they go for sale by owner. But counter offers are that's quite common, and look at where you're at too. One of the best things to do to get the offer and get the house the way you want it is you have to be pre-qualified. If I was a salesperson and you call up and you say you want to go look at a house, and what are you in the market for? Well, about $300,000. So you're pre-approved? Well, no, we haven't done that yet. Well, do that and then come call me. I'm not going to go driving you around, wasting my time and your time, thinking you're going to get approved for a certain price when that's not for certain. Oh no, I've got great credit. I got tons of money. Or maybe I'm a cash buyer. If you're a cash buyer, okay, let's go. Let's go now. But if you're getting a loan, and so this gets back to this offer counter offer. If the offer comes through as say $300,000, and I get somebody else who offers me like $290. But the $300,000 guy doesn't have a letter from the lender saying he's pre-approved, and the 290 guy does have the letter, I'm going with the 290. This guy, that $300,000 without being qualified, that's kind of a crapshoot. You don't know. So anyway, for any salesman, and again, like I say, a few salesmen do all the business, salespeople, and most of those guys will have a definite, we're only going to go look at houses that you're qualified for. The truth is, you may be qualified for more. You may be lowballing. You may think, it may go, you can really get, $400,000 worth of home if you want. The gaps are too big. All these things you kind of come into that doesn't meet code, and, egresses on windows that aren't the right size. Okay, I'll buy the house, but I'm giving you, I want a little something for the effort in terms of I want $10,000 off the price because there's a few things I'm going to have to fix up. And so I expect that to come to you. You can actually do it to where you typically can't get cash back at closing as the buyer, but it gets pretty close. I walked into my house for basically nothing down. So it can happen, but there were some damage issues that I had to fix. Earnest money. So when you say you want to buy a house and you're going to put in an offer and all that stuff, it's kind of a historical thing. It's the utility of it's kind of whatever, but be expected. You're going to have to come up with $3,000, bucks, $2,500, something like that of cash, and that doesn't go to the seller. It goes into an escrow account, and there's all sorts of rules in terms of the real estate people. They can really get in trouble if that money doesn't within like 24 hours get into this escrow account, where basically nobody can touch it, and it just stays there in the deal. And then when the house closes, obviously it'll go to the seller. But if the deal falls apart, and deals who gets kind of cold feet will say, I was going to buy this home, but I decided you didn't disclose the fact that there was whatever, some trivial thing, and you can kind of walk away from the deal. Real estate deals, that's what makes them real estate as an investment, very non-liquid, because it takes so long, like 6 weeks to get everything lined up. And then even at the last minute, people do walk away from deals. So, as a real estate salesperson, you're always kind of on pins and needles till the very end, till it's, it's not over till the fat lady sings. Contingency clauses. Yeah, you can put contingencies in there. Yeah, I'm giving you $300,000. I'm giving you a full price offer, but I got to sell my house first. Again, I'm not taking this house off the market based upon you having to sell your home. So keep your, you know what I mean? And that's just the problem. You probably could have got, if you would have sold your home and you had cash in hand, you probably could have got that house for maybe $275 or something. But if you're coming in there with contingencies, you're not in a strong position. So, but people write them in there, and salespeople want to keep their customers happy, so they'll write them in there for them. But just keep in mind, it's not going to put you in a strong position in terms of negotiation. Obtaining financing. So, I've always been fortunate enough since I started buying homes. I was in the military, right? So I had VA type loans. But there's other things out there. There's other programs out there. You have conventional VA, different types of financing. But in most cases, you'll have to put down, a down payment. Now, if you can't make that down payment, they have that stuff called PMI, private mortgage insurance, and that's just again, kind of a sucking chest wound. It does nothing for you. It's just extra insurance that you have to pay, maybe $150, $200 a month. If it's a strong market and prices are going up, well, you're going to start to build equity in that home, and you haven't paid that much more on your house. But let's say the house is now worth, $330,000. You paid $300,000 for it. You can claim that extra $30,000 in equity, and you may achieve your 20% there that way. All you'd have to do is just get another appraisal, and show that it's indeed worth $30,000 more or whatever, and get that PMI stopped basically as soon as possible. At some point in the loan, when you're paying on this house, you're going to get to the point where you don't have to pay that PMI any longer because you're there. Rates, types, terms. Again, my advice on this is, look nationally, but man, you really want to go with a mortgage broker who is basically in the same time zone and hopefully the same area, because they can really smooth things out. But again, if you're going to a salesperson, they're going to help you out with that. But for example, the bank I use, USAA, I use a couple different banks, one for that, one for business and stuff. But military people often want to deal with this bank, and they do a lot of damage to a lot of real estate deals. Make for very nervous closings. And the problem with gross income, there's a lot of factors though. Different people have different incomes. If you're self-employed, it's tougher because again, they don't like that sort of sporadic income. They like that steady income flowing in. Qualifying for a mortgage, so pre-qualification, finding a property, including appraisal, fee payment, and commitment. Points. I don't spend a lot of time on points. They're a notion that's out there. Points are interest points, are what they're talking about. And let's say the rate is 3.5% right now. You can buy an interest rate. You can make a cash payment now to get a 3% interest rate. So it just makes it a little bit more complex. And I'd say maybe in 5 out of 100 loans, 5% are people buy points. I've just it's never made sense to me on a math basis. So fixed rate, fixed payment mortgage. This is kind of what most people do. They go for typically a 30-year mortgage, and that's usually, when you're shopping mortgages, that's kind of what is apples to apples, is that, a 30-year fixed. You can get shorter terms, 15, 20, 30. My house in Germany is only 10, but that's not very standard. Again, my advice to you, if you're looking at using a shorter term mortgage, is probably not. I would probably still go with the 30 and just double up on the payments. Anyway, I'm not a mortgage broker. They may have reasons why they'd say, it depends on here they're using conventional. So 5%, 10%, 20% down. So obviously the interest rate that you're paying, if you're putting 20% down, you're going to get a better interest rate than the guy who's only put 5% down. Government financing, so VA, Veterans Administration, FHA, and the reason people do that is to get a lower payment. Balloon payments. This, a lot of people who really got burned, they knew what they were getting into, but they were speculating. And a balloon payment means that you have these small payments, and then all of a sudden it starts to ramp up as things go. And you also have adjustable rate mortgages too that we'll talk about later. But anyway, FHA, they're not buying mansions, or at least not and it's because it's done regionally here. So, the maximum on a FHA is 355. So they also do some duplexes and 4-family homes, and same out in the Matsu. The numbers are identical, but you can go over those things, but then it's a combination type loan. And anyway, and then these arms. Like I say, I had an arm in Spain, and I think I was paying like 1.8% or something, but I entail a lot of risk. Yes?
When you're selling a home, so let's say you have a home and it has like an apartment also attached to the house. Like, this is something that my dad, he built an apartment while building a house that I lived in with him for 15 years. And the apartment paid off for the entire house over those 15 years. And what I'm curious is I know there are different people that live in the house now, so I think he sold like the house, the apartment is attached to the house. Can you sell like a house and still rent out an apartment like that?
You know, it's funny. I can tell you what you can do in Germany. You give them 90 days, and they got to beat it. But I don't know what the. I think I believe in Alaska you can sell. Now most people who have a rental type situation, I'll check on that because I tell you the truth, I'm just sort of guessing. But usually there's some, you know, it's some hybrid kind of solution where you know you can't kick them out that day. But again, once the house is for sale.
You have to sell the whole thing.
Yeah.
You have to rent the house.
Yeah. If you're going to turn it into a non-rental situation and you're going to take it over, I'll have to check on that. Yeah.
I'll ask him about it because that's another thing
Yeah.
that he had mentioned that he also wishes that he did more instead of just selling all these houses that he flipped. He said he wished that he just rented them out.
Yeah.
The thing that he's doing now is he has a couple houses that he's renting and he's making money off of that. And then, yeah, I don't know if he owns that apartment or not still, but
Yeah, if I was going to do real estate as a sole career, that's what I would want to do. I would, you know, I'd be out there in the real estate market anyway. I'd be looking to build up because as a real estate agent, whatever, I keep saying that. It's actually a salesperson here in Alaska. But you're kind of an independent. Well, you are an independent contractor. You work under a brokerage, but you pay your own taxes and you function independently. And so when it comes to like buying a house or doing something for yourself, you're not a great credit risk because again you have this commission only type thing. But if you've got a property management thing on the side, now you got that sort of steady stream where you can kind of relax. You know, commission sales may be very attractive to some people in terms of, you know, keeps you motivated and all that stuff. But it would be nice to have that breakdown of that reliance of property management kind of income coming through. And like I said, you know, for most of you, everybody's got different things going on in their life, but the ideal situation for anybody in this place would be to, at some point, pretty soon, look for basically your first home. That it's not really your dream home; it's just going to be a rental, and you're going to live in that thing 3 to 5 years. Because when you move into it as an owner-occupier, you're going to get a better rate on the loan. You know, you're going to have a place to live, obviously. And then, you know, 3 to 5 years, you want something bigger. Your salary's gone up, or you got a little bit more permanence. Now you move on to your next home, and you retain that rental property. And when you turn it into a rental property, the bank doesn't come and say, "Oh, wait a minute, that 3% loan was only good while you lived in it." No, it doesn't work that way. So now they will, VA and other folks will come around if you're trying to do income property and finance it like owner-occupied. They'll come knock on the door and check on you now and again if they see, you know, they have some reason to suspect. But I know people who've done it like one-off kind of thing. Oh yeah, we're getting a divorce, and they get the second home under a great loan. Oh, we worked things out. You know, I got better, and they you know, keep their loan. It's screwy, but you can't do it very often before those people will come after you. And if it's a federal loan, it's a federal problem. So that could be a problem. Yes?
Is the PMI that you pay on mortgage, is that tax deductible or is that tax credit? How's that taxed?
And it's certainly not a tax credit.
Okay, yeah.
No. Tax credit would be a one-to-one thing. Whether it's tax deductible or not, I want to say yeah, but I'll have to check on that. I've got kind of a list of things to check on now. One, what you can do with your renters, and two, whether PMI is deductible.
So you
I would guess that it's going to be deductible, but it's certainly an expense. It's going to be somewhere in the tax code.
more that you're not paying for it.
Yeah, but it's just not something you want to do for very long.
And also, it's a little off the subject here, but the homework on, so it's just the last one with comparing the banks.
Yeah.
You know, that's due Tuesday?
Everything, all homework for this section is due before the midterm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the project
Projects due,
17th or 19th, something like that.
yeah. It's off in the distance because some of those things regarding the housing or regarding the project we haven't talked about yet. We still got a bunch of stuff to talk about in terms of like insurance and term life insurance, and I guess we talked about some of that, but some of the other investments, we'll get to that. You should start developing kind of a shell of what you're going to do, and then fill in the other items. It almost becomes sort of a checklist kind of paper, as you address how you or somebody in a like situation to you is going to get ahead, so.
Can I keep you off this subject for just 1 second?
Sure.
1 second more? And the exam that's going to happen on Tuesday, do we show up early? Can we only start it right at 11:30? Is it?
Yeah, we'll start at 11:30. Yeah.
11:30, and it goes until 12:30 or 12:45. 60 minutes.
Yeah, 60 minutes is the threshold, but we'll talk more about that on the online version. I don't want it to go any longer than 60 because then it kind of becomes an open book type thing. In class, we'll have a little bit more flexibility. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to be a time crunch, but if you in class, obviously, I don't think it's going to take you 60 minutes because you either know it or you don't. There's not going to be that much recalculation. I think you're going to work through the questions.
So you said bring a
calculator, phone, something like that.
Oh.
Some sort of calculating means. I mean, most people don't even have calculators anymore. So some mechanism.
Is
Yeah.
it open notes but not open book?
Not open notes, not open book. Yeah. And that's why the time constraint is there, to make it more realistic. Yes.
So for some of these questions that were in the homework, I just used Excel basically as a calculator. I could type formulas into Excel.
Yeah, well, it's going to be multiple choice type things. The format of the test is going to be true, false, multiple choice.
There's no way to access Excel during the test and use that as my calculator. Just for calculating functions.
Not really. No. But it's not going to be higher math. I mean, there's not going to be that much more. But again, a lot of it has to do with, like I said, some of these comparisons between taxable versus non-taxable. Those are the ones that come to mind. These are some samples of loans. So what they're saying there is $100,000. For every $100,000 worth of purchase price, your payment amount would be like $600. And that's an interest rate of 6%. Thank God nobody's paying that anymore. So you can see even the book's not that old, but they're getting dated because, literally most people are down around 4%. But you can also see how the terms of the loan change. The 30-year loan is $600. The 15 is only $843. So not even $150 more, and you can, the payment is not that much more. But if you get the 30-year mortgage, and you have to talk to a mortgage specialist on this, but if you had the 30-year loan and you pay $843 instead of the $600 on just about all coupons, the payment book or however they're going to deduct it. I don't even think they use payment books anymore. But on your monthly deduction, there's always, any mortgage I've had, there's an ability to pay additional, above to pay it down. So anyway, that's what I like to do. What they're showing here, though, is just the difference between the 15 and the 30. And here is two of them where, so you can see quite a bit of money. Now keep in mind, most places, and it's just easier. I mean, I've done it both ways, but most mortgage companies, they kind of want to look after their investment, and so they don't want it to go into some tax default status. And also, they don't want a house to be going uninsured. They prefer to make sure that insurance is being paid. So, for example, most home loans will often have the insurance and your homeowner's insurance and your property taxes rolled in. So, for example, you pay Wells Fargo $2,100 a month. The bank gets maybe $1,800, and those other things are allocated out to the mortgage. To the property insurance and the property tax, so that their investment is protected. There'll also be these things like, oh yeah, we've got this great policy where, when you buy a loan from us, when you get a loan from us, we insure you. You have life insurance that covers the value of the outstanding mortgage, just because we're looking out for you. Who they're looking out for is they're looking out for their mortgage. They don't want to have to, deal with this whole ensuing, settling of your estate. They just want to have that house paid off free and clear, and their loan be done, and your relationship is ended when you're dead. They didn't make this loan to your heirs. So anyway, credit life insurance. You'll sometimes see that on credit cards too, and it's not free. It's rolled in. I mean, they claim it's free, but it's like anything. It's like free medical care. It's not free. It's rolled into taxes somewhere. So everybody's paying for it at some point, but same thing. Other financing things, so buying down mortgages, reduces the mortgage payment for the first couple of years. Sometimes there's different programs going on out there. Second mortgage, this is if you're in a spot and you need a loan for buying something. I mean, you can usually use this stuff for just about anything. Maybe it's home improvements, maybe it's a boat or something, but you want to get a cheap loan. Well, like we said, loan that has collateral associated with it, whereas if this boat goes away and you decide you don't want to pay for it anymore, but you took out a second mortgage on your house, they can take your house. Well, they're more willing to give you a decent interest rate if they know they've got some collateral there, and the fact that the interest may be tax deductible is a reason for you to do that. Reverse mortgage. So this is kind of like, screw the kids, I got mine. So you basically get payments from your a mortgage company that you would sell this. You basically sell your house to them, and they buy it over the period that you remain alive. So obviously there's got to be a provision in there to, if you live to be longer than you expect, that they don't kick you out of the house. But anyway, it's a way for people who are elderly, who are 62 years or older, and they've got a house that's worth a whole lot, but they're not doing very well in terms of savings. So you can kind of expect that these things will probably become more and more popular. People's ability to save is not good. There's some pretty staggering statistics on how little people actually save. So refinancing, there's not too many bad loans out there. Most of the loans have been refinanced now. Loans have been rates have been low for quite some time now, and so, but you could expect if interest rates started to rise, and there's those 6-7% or 8-9 or whatever percent loans. I mean, they've gotten as high as literally back in the Jimmy Carter era. There was like almost 18% loans. There wasn't a whole lot of those loans being taken because they just killed the market. Nobody could afford it. But if you get in a situation where you've got a higher interest rate than is what is prevailing, then you refinance. But they say drops by 1%. Again, that's just sort of a rule of thumb. You'd want to look and see what all the closing costs and what all the different changes are going to be when you refinance, because that's not typically done for free. So, but at a certain point, it would make sense. So close a purchase transaction. Title insurance, attorney's fees. Title's just to make sure it's, there's no funniness. It is owned by who it's said to be owned by. Typically, you don't have an attorney involved. You will have an appraiser involved. Surveys, pest inspections, recording fees, transfer taxes, credit reports. So anyway, you get into this whole thing, and there's, fees that are typically paid by the buyer and fees that are paid by the seller. And they've got little charts that show the breakdown. You can argue about it, but guess what? There's a certain way that customary charges. And, you pay for your own credit report. They pay for the surveyor, and it goes tit for tat. And you can shop around. It's pretty standard. prepaid interest, and the real estate commission. The real estate commission, theoretically is negotiable, but again, if somebody comes to me and says, real estate commissions are 6%, right? But just to say that's like an antitrust thing. So you can't say that we're all in collusion, we all charge 6%, but yeah, 6% is what it is. And if you say, well, I'm only going to pay 4%, well, good luck. You know what I mean? Because again, those people got to eat, and they've got all these office costs and stuff like that. So there are other things you can do. There's some of these kind of no frills brokerages that just sort of list it and they get on the multiple listing service for a lower fee. And if that works for you, good. But a lot of times, you may not sell at the price you want if you're using one of those. You got to look at the big picture, net to net. So again, I'm not a representative of the MLS or the Realtors Association, but there is a reason why they get 6% generally. Strategy for selling your home. So repair, repaint, clean, all this stuff. When showing, turn on lights, bake bread. I mean, a lot of that stuff does work, but the big thing you want to do, and again, this is where one of the things that a salesperson will do for you is walk in your house and go, okay, this is all got to go. Houses look bigger when they're empty for the most part. And people also, there's like the psychology bit about, people want to see themselves in your house. So if you got a bunch of pictures of you in this house, that's not so good either. You want get those things. So big thing is get rid of all your junk. I mean, and if it comes to having to rent a storage unit or get a shipping container and get your stuff out of there, do it. But a big cluttered house is going to affect the price. Most salespeople won't necessarily do it themselves, but they'll have somebody who works for them called a stager, and they'll stage the home, and they'll go through and they'll have boxes and they'll be packing up your stuff and getting it out of there. So, I mean, you can pay somebody to do it, or you can do it yourself. And the best thing to do, too, is moving time is a great time to get rid of all the junk. In the military, it's kind of nice because, you move into some place and you go to move again 3 years later, and here's stuff that still hasn't been unboxed. It's like, well, I probably didn't need it very bad if I haven't even unboxed it, so maybe I should let it go. I've got a friend who has a huge overseas shipping container and finally got rid of it. But, I mean, it was just silly. I mean, I'm helping him load it. He doesn't even know what he has. Or people, worse yet, will pay the mini storage. I mean, that's again, that is, do the math, $65 or whatever a month. It's usually quite a bit more for this really valuable stuff. I'd rather have brand new stuff in the store where I can find it, not shoved in some container. I mean, literally, you get so much junk. Anyway, selling a home. Determining the selling price. So an appraiser is going to look at comps. You can bring in an appraiser beforehand, but I'll probably have to reappraise it when you go to sell it. So, real estate agent markets your home. They can, or they can be very lazy. I mean, you got to, again, knowing a good salesperson is a lot of it. The for sale by owner, use a lawyer or a title company. So if you're hiring a lawyer, you're kind of defeating the purpose. Those guys are $250 an hour, and it's usually kind of overkill. There's usually real estate people out there who can do all those services, and the notion of needing a lawyer is probably a bit over the top. Listing a real estate agent for services. So, yeah, they work on commission, so they don't work necessarily for a contract, but the strategy for selling the home is, you can, these real estate people aren't, they aren't these geniuses that have it all figured out. I mean, they're going to look at what comparable properties are going for, and maybe they're a little more honest than you are. People always tend to think their stuff is maybe a bit more special than the next guy, but anyway, that is one advantage they have. So, yeah, I didn't have too much more on that. We already did the attendance thing, and I figure everybody's going to be here for the time right before the test, so that's not an issue. But any questions on any of this stuff about any home buying stuff? I mean, literally, I don't mean to scare you off from real estate. I mean, there's some investments you should genuinely be scared of. But for the most part, real estate it's fairly upfront. You see what you see. It's you can kind of reach out and touch it. People are always going to need a place to live. It's kind of sad that in the U.S. Neighborhoods kind of evolve, and nice neighborhoods turn into kind of rundown neighborhoods, and that's not necessarily the case in places like Europe, like I said. But a big thing, they always talk about the most important things in real estate. Location, location, location. So really, that is it. I mean, if you get the guy was saying on the edges of things, on the waterfront, as long as you're not going to get flooded, you have those issues. Don't be buying up on a river where you're going to have accretion, or sometimes you can gain land. Again, right now, we'll see what happens, but there could be a dip in real estate prices. I don't think it's going to be anything like they had before, but this might be kind of a wait and see thing for a number of months. And like I said, there's other ways. It's a good way to amass wealth, but especially if you're somebody who doesn't mind tinkering stuff, toilets and fixing that kind of stuff for tenants. But for some people, that they don't want any part of it. So, any other questions? We will see you next week then, huh? You got it. Shit.
That's a short question. I'm in the class right before this, and we were talking about interest rates. And so, when interest rates go up, it's the incentive to buy is higher because
Okay, so when interest rates, it's all supply and demand, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So if interest rates go up, there's a lot of people who are always kind of on the edge in terms of buying, in terms of being able to even buy a home in general. And so if interest rates go up, property prices are going to go down typically because there's fewer people in the market. If interest rates are low, there's a lot of people who can go into the market, and so prices are typically going to go up.
Right, so you're saying that the prices are going to go up because
in which
interest
case?
rates are going to drop. You just said this.
Yeah. If interest rates go down, prices are going to go up, typically. All things being equal.
So would it be smarter to try and buy when prices are a little higher and interest rates lower?
No. If you're the cash buyer, and you got some money on hand, it might be a good idea to jump in at that point. But when rates are quite high, it's just not a good market for anybody. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, but rates are we're getting kind of spoiled because rates are so low right now that it's hard, and they've really got nowhere to go but up. But the market, they're kind of playing again.